podcast like it. You want a podcast like it? Podcast like it's 1999. Podcast like it. Just podcast like it. Podcast like it's 1999. Podcast like it. You want a podcast like it's 1999.
Hello and welcome to Podcast Like It's 1999, the podcast where we give out awards arbitrarily based on the 52 movies we recently watched. Here from the Crypto.com Center in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, I am one of your hosts, Kenny Neibart.
And I'm Phil Iskov.
It's not actually based on the 52 last movies. It's what we watched over the 52 previous weeks. But they still let us do it here at the Crypt. It's exactly the same as it was before. There's just different signage around everywhere. You'll all be very excited to show up, watch your Lakers, your Clippers, and your Kings.
Do you think they're going to call it the Crypt?
No, me and you are really pushing it hard.
I mean, they got to. Like, what other choice do they have? Can't call it the Crypto.com Center.
No, it's horrible. But everybody I push it towards is like, yeah, that's not bad.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not
So Phil Iskos deserves all the credit for calling it the Crypt.
I don't think that's true. I stole it from someone on Twitter, I'm sure.
Oh, stop it.
But anyway, I'm excited to do this 52 in review. It's a weird batch of movies. When you
Always is.
every year, Kenny sends me the movies that are eligible, the various categories that we're going to talk about. And when I looked at this batch of movies, I was like, wow, why do I feel like we did better movies this year?
You think we did better movies this year than...
No, in my brain, I was like, we did some good movies this year. And then I looked and I was like, yeah, we did a bunch of fucking weird movies this year. We've done some good ones too. But.
The truth is, except for the first year, I always kind of struggle to fill out the categories.
Yeah.
There's one in particular this year that's just crazy.
I struggled a little bit with some categories for sure. I mean, I do think that part of the problem, I guess, to some degree or another, and what I'm sure, I don't know if this applies to you as well, but so we're going to do our top 10 so far, right? So like our top 10 movies of 1999, and what has changed and what hasn't. This is the first year where really only one movie changed for me.
So only one movie made the list.
Correct, of what we watched this year.
More than that for me.
Interesting.
I think I like this year a little better than you, but there is, and it's not even worth, teasing it out.
Yeah.
You're going to have topsy-turvy throughout your list, and I'm not. And that's an interesting thing. And there's another movie that I'm not going to say that I think is going to feature more prominently on your lists than mine, though it does make appearances.
That's possible. I mean, yes, I do have topsy-turvy.
I'm positive about the other movie too.
Okay.
But topsy-turvy, I assume, is going to make almost every category for you. And
not every category. It didn't. But anyway, but point being, I don't think I certainly have it on here more than you do, but I don't know that I leaned on it as heavily as perhaps you think I might. But
I have no idea. I don't know what your number one is. I don't know what your winner is. Unfortunately, you know what mine is, I think. But we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited, and I have to say too, for our listeners, we are approaching the beginning of our final year of 1999. So next year will be the last year that we cover this particular year, and I'm going to be really interested to see when what our top 10s look like, maybe most specifically at the very end. I think that there are some movies that obviously you and I still very much love, and I'd be surprised if they don't land on our list. But at the same time, like, I've never done anything like this before in terms of a deep dive of every single movie.
No,
I mean, who does? It's fucking crazy. Yeah,
nobody has.
No one does this.
We are breaking new ground.
But because of that, it actually, like, I really did kind of, making that 10's going to be hard. Like, because there's so many movies that are in there now that I just didn't even think had never seen before. Movies like Limbo, which we'll talk about, I'm assuming, on this particular episode. But like, there's just, I remembered really liking Titus in '99, but now it's in a whole new level for me. So it's just interesting to kind of how I'm going to do this top 10 at the end of the.
I'm not going to say anything else, but I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
You want to get into this? You want me to read
do
the
it.
list
Where do you want to start?
I'm going to read the list of eligible films.
Do it.
So everyone knows these are the films that we have done since the last 52 in review.
Correct.
Starting with Baby Geniuses, Galaxy Quest, The Iron Giant, Dogma, At First Sight, American Pimp, Universal Soldier 2, The Return, True Crime, Beyond the Mat, Topsy Turvy, The 13th Floor, Godzilla 2000, The Girl on the Bridge, Three Kings, Liberty Heights, Tumbleweed, Perfect Blue, Mr. Death, The Rage, Carrie 2, The General's Daughter, The Love Letter, Last Night, Pushing Tin, The Minus Man, The Omega Man, Titus, The Very Thought of You, Playing by Heart, Limbo, The End of the Affair, The Ninth Gate, Bats, Sleepy Hollow, Message in a Bottle, Jacob the Liar, Ride with the Devil, Holy Smoke, and Held Up.
So there's one movie missing from this list, but I don't think that you and I necessarily are going to have issues with it. But Deep End of the Ocean is a movie that we did slot in at the last second because we did a little bit of a rejiggering of our schedule.
Oh.
So
Deep End of the Ocean will have, that's last week.
yeah.
Spoiler alert, isn't going to make any of my list.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's not going to make it on my end. Like, I as I was literally sitting down to record this, I was like, oh, wait, Deep End of the Ocean comes out tomorrow. We're recording this, obviously, out of order, guys. But, and I was like, is there anything? And I'm like, nah. I love Michelle Pfeiffer, as we all very well know. But, like,
great.
she's not,
great.
it's not going to happen.
That's not gonna
so
that's
what,
good to know.
Yeah. Do we want to start with screenplay and work our way up?
No, let's start with the silly ones.
Oh, sure. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, great.
All right. Let's go from the bottom,
Okay.
I think.
The Rewatchable Award? Is that what you're talking about? Or do you want to start at most surprising?
Let's start at most surprising.
Okay.
Phil, what was your most surprising film of the last 52?
I think that the movie that I was most pleasantly surprised by was Limbo. It was a movie that I had not seen in '99, had never seen before. Went into it with, just general, I like John Sayles kind of vibe. And I fucking loved it. Like, it's really stayed with me. It's going to appear a little bit more in some of my other categories as well. It's unfortunate that I think a lot of John Sayles' work, and we've talked about this on our Limbo episode, but there's so much of his work is kind of dismissed as slight. Do you know what I mean? That that they don't
in indie stuff, produced, in New Jersey and
right.
kind of ignored by the mainstream outside of maybe 8 Men Out.
Right. And Lone Star, there are movies of his
but
that
even Lone Star, which is a fantastic movie, still felt like Indie Boy Made Good.
100%. And I guess I equate him in a lot of ways to Jarmusch, Jim Jarmusch as well.
Yep.
Guys that are just like, this is what I fucking do. And I'm lucky to do it, and I'll get a couple $1 million and some great actors together, and we'll make a great movie. And a couple 100,000 people might see it. So Limbo, I think, was just a movie that I kind of clumped in there and loved it. I don't know, what was yours?
Yep. I went the other direction. Mine was Bats.
Bats is I got one on those too. Yeah.
Bats was something that I thought would be not only terrible, but also like midnight movie that we would just be making fun of it constantly, that it would be completely unself-aware, that it was the tail end of these monster pictures and they had run out of all the interesting ones. So they went with Bats. Bats was fantastic. Bats was so much fun.
Great.
I actually have another award for Bats too.
Same.
Later on. Obviously, Lou Diamond Phillips coming on the episode was the highlight of the pod for us. But it was just the kind of movie that only we would watch because no one even talks about it anymore, and should not be ignored. Like, October rolls around, you are watching your scary movies. I see no reason why Bats should not, make a drive-in program, midnight movie program, Halloween marathon.
Totally agree.
It's a fun flick. Give it a shot in October. Don't waste your time now.
Yeah, I would also say too, not that episode was an absolute blast for a bunch of reasons. Obviously, Danielle and Barrett are so much fun to have on, but I would also say too, like, that movie would have been great if it was just me and you. We sat down,
we would have loved it,
watched it, and then we got on the pod. Would have been like, wait a second, that's fucking great. Like, it's not just because we got Lou Diamond Phillips and had fun kind of watching it on Pluto and all that kind of stuff. The movie actually is legitimately good, guys.
Yeah,
fucking watch Bats.
Totally feel that.
What was your biggest disappointment?
Topsy-turvy. We can move on.
Mine was,
as someone who likes Mike Leigh and has always wanted to watch this movie. Maybe I built it up too high, but it just was not for me. Go ahead.
I mean, listen, there is going to be some litigation of this movie at some point during this 52 in review.
Not by me. Feel free to give it whatever award you want. I'm not gonna stand in your way. I'm not gonna argue.
Well, no, I wasn't suggesting you'd stand in my way, and nor was I suggesting that. I also don't. I'm not sitting here expecting to change your opinion on it. I'm just saying that as we get deeper into this, I will speak more about it. But in terms of my biggest disappointment, I think Ride with the Devil was my biggest.
Oh, that's a good answer.
That was a movie that I had never seen before. I knew that, it was not by any means beloved, but, it's Ang Lee. It's in the Criterion Collection. It's got some great actors in it. And I was kind of hoping that there was something more there. You know what I mean? That maybe there was a re-litigation to go on and that we could kind of, find something special within that movie. And unfortunately, it's just really boring.
So few prestige movies that or prestige plays, I should say, that didn't hit at the time, hit now. I think we did one that is better than its reputation at the in the moment.
Yes.
But for the most part, those films disappear for a reason. It's very hard to do a prestige costume historical drama. Yeah, it's not really a costume drama, but a prestige historical drama period. And to kind of miss the mark, which I think they completely missed the mark from the inception. I think their protagonist was a disaster.
I completely agree, and I not to lead on this too heavily, but I do give the Criterion collection
Yes.
a lot of respect, and so there was a part of me that was just like,
someone smart said this was worth checking out, and I'm sure that person is less smart than we thought.
Okay, next category.
So most problematic, Phil. I think it's your turn.
I said Ninth Gate. It's you're hard pressed to find two more problematic people right now than Roman Polanski and Johnny Depp work. I mean, on one project. I also just it's just a bad movie. Like I was really sort of. That's just one of those movies that we had planned on doing it many moons ago, and then that didn't happen, so we actually had to watch it twice. So it's just it's just fuck that movie. That's my most problematic.
It'll show up later. My most problematic. I actually kind of considered retiring this award because it's not that much fun anymore. Yeah. And the movie I found most problematic while I was watching it was General's Daughter, and I think Jordan did a great job defending the film, But I also think it's a film that does some things that are wrong-headed, inappropriate. Its morality is in the wrong place, and it's very rah-rah pro-military. I found it an uncomfortable watch. I think Jordan's read on it came from a completely different place, and it was a very interesting episode. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this film a lot through that lens. But that was the one I think I'm not trying to take shots when the defender of the movie isn't here. It's just that is the one that will get that award for me.
And ironically, also the guest for Ninth Gate. I think that I completely agree with you in terms of the viewing experience of watching General's Daughter. I found it deeply uncomfortable watching that film. I really did not like watching that movie. But to your point, I think Jordan did a really interesting job deconstructing it in a way that I didn't. So, but be that as it may, Fine Wine Award, age the best.
The Girl on the Bridge, age the best. I think everything employed in that movie is more resonant now than it was then. I think, having just gone through these Razzie movies, there was a scourge of over the top erotic movies, over the top erotic thrillers, and to have this, and that I think Phil and I decided were none of which were actually sexy, and very few erotic thrillers are actually sexy. But this is not an erotic thriller, but this is a fucking sexy movie. And that's, I think, the hardest fucking thing to do. I totally. Absolutely loved this film. I think the black and white is beautiful. I think the performances are amazing. I think it's, it's the kind of thing that, it's the kind of thing in a small way that like Guillermo del Toro has been doing for the last 20 years. Very evocative, very emotional, very harrowing, and just romantic in a I'm in love with movies kind of way. So that's
I mean, listen, I'm a huge fan of Girl on the Bridge. It's going to appear a fair amount as we continue going down the road with this episode. So I actually gave this award to Holy Smoke.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that Holy Smoke is going to end up in my top 10 or probably even in my top 30 if I'm being completely frank. But I found watching it through a 2021 lens that film was sort of breathtakingly progressive and, in terms of relationships between men and women, gender roles and all of that, just like fucking decades ahead of everybody else in terms of that sort of stuff. So I think that movie's aged really well.
That's a great point. It's a great choice. What's your Rancid Mayonnaise award for the worst aged movie?
I think the movie that's aged perhaps the worst is Playing by Heart.
That's a great. You're doing better than me. I like your answers better than mine.
I think that Playing by Heart.
That's the right answer. I'm changing my answer.
Because it's just like in the last 20 some odd years, we've seen so many movies try to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And you watch this and you're just like, fuck, you sucked at it then and you look so much worse at it now. It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucked. And it also had a really cloying, kind of uncomfortable and pretty ugly AIDS storyline. Dealt with no sensitivity, and it was just a plot device. So that aged very poorly. I said Ninth Gate, bad movie.
Also aged very poorly.
We'll give an award to it's the We Watched That award, the movie that you can't even remember. And I had trouble with this because I remember every one of these movies fairly well.
Same.
I think you're going to be surprised by the one I chose because I can't tell you what happened in this film. I know we watched it, but I can't tell you one thing that happened in it.
You broke up there, so I didn't hear the title.
Sorry, I didn't give you the title. I said I think you're going to be surprised.
Okay.
Yes. The movie I chose, because I can't remember one thing that happened in this film, is The Omega Man. We watched it. We had a podcast with Hunter.
That's the right answer.
I just don't fucking remember a single fucking frame of that film.
Yeah, that's actually your answer is better than mine on this one. the Omega Man, and this is going to sound kind of funny to say, I remember how it felt watching it. I remember the feeling of it, and yet I remember nothing about it. Like, there's a vibe that I remember, but yeah, it's a completely forgettable movie, and which is ironic considering how loathed and insane that movie is, and yet it kind of just what goes through your brain.
I'm sure there are audiences who can have a real, like make a real meal of watching Omega Man. I'm not one of them.
I said At First Sight.
The thing about At First Sight is it's a really good answer, and I'm going to let you out of my process a little bit.
Yeah.
I am currently At First Sight won the next award for me, which is the Hard Pass Award.
Wait, I thought we had one performer you wish you got more.
Oh, sorry. Well, all right, it won the Hard Pass Award.
Okay.
And
okay.
And I'm not going to change it now because I'm telling you this, but I'm currently like kind of looking through to see if there's another one, because it's not the premise of that film that's the problem. It's what you said. It's the the complete lack of like specificity and engagement and emotionality in that film. It's like the premise is gross, but the premise isn't like necessarily bad.
It's execution. It's one of those things where, like, I remember when we did the episode, and as we were talking about it, it was like, it's just so earnest, and it's trying so hard and so cloying, and it's wearing its heart on its sleeve to such a cringy degree. I think, to your point, there might be a halfway decent movie to be made out of that premise, perhaps.
Yeah.
But this is obviously not that movie. But yeah.
And if this were made, I mean, like, a movie reminds me of a little bit of this movie like Regarding Henry.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a great movie by a long shot, but in the 80s, it's a little more forgivable to tell those kind of stories than in 1999.
Yeah.
When we're, the best movie year ever. What a blight.
Correct.
So who's your
performer?
Let's skip the performer for a minute.
Oh, okay.
You give me your
hard pass.
Your hard pass, and then we'll do Sold in the Room.
Jacob the Liar is my hard pass in the room.
Yep, that's a great one.
that's just one of those movies where you're just like, we don't need this movie.
Yeah, no one wants that movie. No one wants it. You put Robin Williams in it, no one wants that movie.
It's like, just don't do it.
Yeah, that's the proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
What was your Sold in the Room award?
Oh, do we want to do performer, or we're just not doing it at all?
We'll go back to performer.
Sold in the Room was Bats. I mean, you come in a room, you tell me Lou Diamond Phillips is going to fight Bats. I'm like, I'm in.
My soul, I went a little. So when I picked Bats, you went a little, I guess, high. You went higher brow. Everything's higher brow than Bats. But I went a little more critically acclaimed. Galaxy Quest is one of the great films of all time.
Yeah.
So you saw that in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I mean, we're going to talk about Galaxy Quest, I'm sure. There's some nominations coming up on that for me, for sure. I don't know. I wonder, in 99, is Galaxy Quest a slam dunk? That's not to say that it wouldn't have sold in the room, but, like, is that premise... Do you know what I'm sort of getting at? Like, is that...
Oh, I think the premise still plays.
Okay.
The question for me is this a $200 million movie?
Right.
And at that point, like, are you losing all the charm of it?
Yeah.
So
correct. Yeah.
But no, I think it's such a rock solid premise.
It's great. It's a great movie.
Who's your performer that you wish we got more of?
My performer that I wish we got more of was Gretchen Mol.
Okay.
13th Floor, borders on being an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. And she really kind of brings her A game. But this was, and we talked about this on our episode a little bit, but, like, I feel like Gretchen Mol was deemed the it girl, put in a bunch of stuff, and then just kind of disappeared. And that's kind of what I was coming at with this award, where I'm just like, I feel like we burned her out in a way that was unfair, similar to like an Andy McDowell or a Julia Ormond or something like that, where it's like everyone's like, she's the girl. And then when she doesn't turn into Julia Roberts, everyone just discards her or whatever. And so that's my thing.
Russian more than almost anybody was, I think she was on the cover of the Entertainment Weekly It edition or It list. Mine is another person I think was done dirty by Hollywood, star of Bats, Dina Myers, who
good call.
I think that everybody who was in Starship Troopers got fucked by it.
Yep.
And
became a punchline.
Yes, and maybe it's worth it for the brilliant art we got out of everyone except Neil Patrick Harris, who really had to work his ass off to get out of Punchlineville.
100%.
But you watch Bats, and Dina Myers absolutely could have had a very, very successful career in action films, in romantic comedies. She could have had a television show built around her. She's magnetic. She looks great in clothes.
She looks great in clothes.
She does not. She does not feel of a certain time period. She kind of has a timeless beauty to her. And I loved her confidence in bats. I bought everything she said in a silly movie about giant bats eating you. So I really do. Yeah. That was a little bit of a revelation that I think we could have had a lot more of her.
I don't disagree. She was, I think it's a really good call. I think that, on both parts, I think that Starship Troopers definitely screwed a lot of people. So did Showgirls for all intents and purposes as well.
Yes.
The Verhoeven misinterpretation machine and how easily his sort of satire parodies can turn on you. I also just think that people apply so much binary shit to his movies. Critics aren't or weren't. I like to think they're a little bit more nimble today, maybe. But I would say that back then you fell into a good or a bad camp. It really just did not seem to have much in between.
You mean in terms of the movie's good or bad, or the director's good or bad?
Yeah, the movie, the interpretation of the movie. I think critics were just very kind of
there right now too. I think there's,
I don't disagree.
I think it's unfortunate, and you see it happening. And then it's the film Twitter, which is basically film criticism these days, just kind of moves in a wave together and lands somewhere. I think we're seeing it we saw it with House of Gucci, where it started real high and then got real low and it's kind of landing. Being the Ricardos, started real low, got real high, and now it's kind of coming down. Yeah. And people are just going to find water and just stay there.
I think it's happening with Don't Look Up as well. There seems to be this
definitely happened with Don't Look Up. Yes, it went real high and then real low, and it's sad. It's pathetic.
It is, because there's part of it too. I think Gucci's a really good example of that photo comes out of the two of them, which becomes the memed photo, perhaps of the year, certainly up there. And all of a sudden, I get the impression that MGM saw the response to that photo and was like, oh, wait a second.
We might have something.
Here. And is there a camp thing we can capitalize on? And then they kind of go all in on that narrative. And then if you see the film, it's not nearly as campy as you think. It's somewhere in between, which I think is actually a good thing. But do you sort of know what I'm getting at? There's just this kind of there's this sort of the internet machine that starts to create a narrative, and that creates a false sense of
what the film
quality.
It happens all the time. It happens all of not necessarily quality, but tone and timbre, right?
Yeah.
What to expect from this movie? How you should watch the movie? How you should
approach this film? Yeah,
how you should approach the film?
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think selling camp almost never works. Camp is
camp
doesn't come from marketing people.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. No. I also think that with Don't Look Up in particular, it was clear as day that Netflix had no idea how to market this movie. They had no idea how to put it out into the world. All the clips were pretty shitty. All the trailers were very odd. It's an odd movie to be clear, and the tone of the movie is sort of all over the place. So they were kind of handed a movie that's very hard to,
You saw it?
I did, yes.
It feels like a '90s movie to me.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it was Chris Veal who said I retweeted him, but basically that Adam McKay thought he was making JFK, but he actually made the second half of Natural Born Killers. I think that there's
That's really
a lot of
interesting
validity to
me.
that.
Can't wait to watch it. Haven't seen anything this year. I'm gonna do my best.
Yep.
Okay,
We are at the Y2K Award, Most Fearful of the Future.
I gave this to Ninth Gate.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I gave this to 13th Floor.
they were both very afraid of the future.
They're very afraid of the
Yes,
future.
very afraid of the future. 13th Floor is a great one too. 13th Floor was definitely technology is going to destroy us.
Definitely, like, technology will ruin us. We will have no personalities. We will have no.
Yeah.
We will have no. Like, yeah, it's like Ninth Gate fears the religious future, and 13th Floor fears the technological future.
It's it's interesting that the movies that make these lists at the end tend to be movies we love and movies we hate, but always movies that were very specific.
Yes.
Obviously we gave At First Sight, like movies about literally about lack of specificity, but
Or the love letter, which is literally about
love
nothing.
letter. Yeah, I was looking for a spot for it because I hated it so much. I just didn't think that there was a spot for it.
Yeah, it
might have
didn't, unfortunately.
been the hard pass award, but I actually don't hate the premise of that film. So, what's your IP award?
So, my IP award is Pushing Tin.
It's interesting that it's not. Sleepy Hollow.
Is it? Is it interesting that it's not? So I Pushing Tin, and I think I brought this up on the podcast. So my next two answers, the IP award and what would be a great PTV show, are both Pushing Tin. I think
My peak TV show is Pushing Tin.
Oh, there you go.
So
Okay.
interestingly enough, yeah.
I think that there's a real the premise of that movie. The failure of that movie is not capitalizing on the premise of that movie. That universe is fascinating
I
and
agree.
like high stakes and like weird workplace dramedy. Like you could make a fucking great show out of that.
You could make and ironically, because it's the John Landgraf Award, that's an FX show.
100%.
That is an FX show.
Yep.
What are they doing in this air traffic controller place?
Yep.
We'll get it. We'll get the rights to that one. We'll do it.
Cool.
My IP award is
what's your IP
obviously
award?
Obviously the Minus Man. Give me the Plus Man.
Of course. The Plus Man.
Give me the Plus Man. Give it to me.
Oh my God.
I almost don't want to do the rewatchables because I feel like it gives away. I'm actually not going to do it because I feel like it gives away a lot.
Let's not do it.
It gives away a lot
okay.
of what I was going to say, what I'm going to pick at the top. So let's skip that.
Okay, let's skip it.
And get on
Yep.
to the main show.
The main show.
We're leaving the crypt and going to the Rose Bowl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
100,000 people have turned out to see the main award show for the 52 in Review Part 4.
The fourth annual.
The fourth annual 52 in Review here at the Rose Bowl. Great to see you again, Phil.
It's good to see you too. So, do we want to do best adapted or best original screenplay first?
Let's do adapted.
Okay.
All right, let's do
You do yours first.
adapted. All right.
Adapted.
The nominees are. I'm going to do all the nominees and the winners. I think it's cleaner. And the winner.
Okay, great.
The nominees are Julie Taymor for Titus, based on the play Titus by William Andronicus, by William Shakespeare.
Indeed.
Neil Jordan, The End of the Affair, based on the book The End of the Affair by Graham Greene. Tim McCanley's and Brad Bird for The Iron Giant, based on The Iron Giant. I don't know anything else about it. Sadayuki Mirai for Perfect Blue, based on something called Perfect Blue that also has a colon. And Larry Gross, Paul Brickman, and Stephen Schiff for True Crime, based on a crime novel named True Crime. And the winner is Sadayuki Mirai for Perfect Blue.
Good call. That's a very good call.
Congratulations, Sadayuki.
I stupidly did not know that was adapted. Had I known, it would definitely have been one of my nominees. So I'll give you my nominees. Neil Jordan, End of the Affair, Julie Taymor, Titus, Andrew Kevin Walker for Sleepy Hollow, Glenn and Les Charles for Pushing Tin, and Brad Bird and Tim McCandless for The Iron Giant.
It's
and
hard.
It's hard. It's hard. I gave it to Neil Jordan for End of the Affair. First of all, Perfect Blue is fucking great, and I was
Congratulations to Neil Jordan. That's the one I was talking about that I think has aged better.
I agree. I think it's aged incredibly well. Yeah. And there's some other nominations coming up for that, or at least talk of that coming up for me too. But I first of all, Perfect Blue is fucking great. I was struggling and trying to find something because I really did want to highlight it. So I appreciate and I'm thankful that you were able to, because I think it's one of the best movies that we've covered this year for sure. Mm-hmm. End of the Affair just knocked my socks off this time that we watched it again. A great episode and just a fucking great movie that this happens. It feels like it happens basically every year where there's like just a really good prestige movie that doesn't hit. Yeah. And just kind of gets lost to time, and this feels like that movie.
I will now reveal that End of the Affair is my covert rewatchable.
Oh, interesting.
There are two movies that I put above it. I basically said there are two movies, but they also are my two favorite movies of the year, which I think is something I don't want to reveal. But if I had to pick one that I think I'm going to rewatch, and I think about it a lot, and I really want to get into it again, it's End of the Affair. So, good answer. Good answer. It would have been my choice if I didn't look at Perfect Blue and realize. But are the ones we reached for are interesting too. I reached for True Crime, and you reached for Pushing Tin.
Yes.
And I guess maybe I should have gone with Sleepy Hollow. I guess I should have maybe done that instead of True Crime. It is a better film, but it's not really because of the screenplay.
No, it's not. I mean, I'll say this. Listen, we obviously did our Sleepy Hollow episode, and I have my my backstory with Sleepy Hollow. But watching it again, first of all, there's Tom Stopper's his past, which obviously adds all sorts of fun period quirk to it that's incredibly important. But I really do think that Andrew Kevin Walker did find a way to kind of make a slasher movie out of it, and to kind of make it a little bit more horror-y and a little bit sort of honestly like give it some weight. And the reason I bring this up is it's a very slight piece of source material. There's not a lot there, right? And when you think about something like your fucking Grinch or your Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where like they beef it up by giving you like 10 or 15 minutes of backstory that no one asked for. Yeah. Thankfully, he found a way to kind of massage this in a way, and also the backstory for Ichabod is so slight and mostly visual that anyway. So that's why I give him a little bit of credit for that. But best original screenplay.
Best original screenplay.
I will go first on this one. Don McKellar for Last Night, David Howard and Robert Gordon for Galaxy Quest, John Sayles for Limbo, David O. Russell and John Ridley for Three Kings, and Mike Lee for Topsy Turvy. I gave it to Don McKellar for Last Night. Always looking to support my Canadian countrymen, but also that was a movie that I was excited to do. I also want to say, loved all of these scripts. I mean, we could have a discussion about whether or not Mike Lee had a script. That's neither here nor there. Really, the four others I think are great fucking scripts, and I know that there was.
I think what Matt. I honestly, I feel like for screenplay, there's no such thing as a screenplay. There is just the transcript of what actually made it, and that's your script. Yes. Anything that anybody wrote that didn't make it onto the screen doesn't count. So,
I agree. Yeah.
If Mike Lee said, figure this out, guys, and he's the one who had final cut on what makes it in and what makes it out, he's the guy who wrote the screenplay, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. And I know that David O. Russell and John Ridley had their whole arbitration that went on. Yes. David O. Russell's his own thing in and of itself. But Last Night, first of all, Galaxy Quest is just a banger, and Limbo, we'll keep talking about. But Last Night to me was just sort of watching it again. it just really hit me on a gut level in a way that it didn't the first time. I'm older now, obviously, but and watching it in the middle of a pandemic, it was just, there was a lot of things, but I really loved it. That's my winner. Those are my nominees. What about you?
Mine were very similar. Don McKellar for Last Night, Serge Friedman for Girl on the Bridge, David Howard and Robert Gordon for Galaxy Quest, John Ridley and David O. Russell for Three Kings, and John Sayles for A Limbo. And like Phil, unlike Phil, I have no interest in supporting his fellow countrymen, but like Phil, I went ahead and did it and gave it to Don McKellar. I love this movie. I think, if you listen to our episode on Last Night, it's the movie that we've done this whole time that I love the most. That's it. And the only,
that's an amazing statement.
Truly. There are things that might come up in our last year. We certainly have, some of my previously stated favorite movies of all time. But this was the best experience, and I love it. I love it. I'm not, I'm not necessarily saying it's the best. I'm saying that I love it.
It's I was so thrilled that you loved it as much as you did. I think it's a fantastic movie, and I'm thrilled that we got to talk about it.
It's a special and spectacular movie. Okay,
best director?
Best director. Okay, I will go first. Best director. Don McKellar, Last Night. Julie Taymor, Titus. David O. Russell, Three Kings. Patrice LeConte, Girl on the Bridge, and Barry W. Blaustein for Beyond the Mat.
Crazy. What?
A documentary made the list? First time ever.
What a twist.
Doesn't win, though. It goes to Patrice LeConte for The Girl on the Bridge.
Sure.
Patrice, Girl on the Bridge and Last Night are my twin stars of this year. It's not necessarily that they're 1 and 1A, but the visuals of this film, the pacing of this film, the emotionality of this film, the stakes and the tension, that's all stuff that is 100% in the director's hands. And I'm the whole movie is obviously, but really you see a director at work in this film in a way that feels wonderful and life affirming. So I thought that I would give it to Patrice LeConte.
I obviously adore Girl on the Bridge as well. And I just to piggyback on what you're saying, I do think I agree with you. Just a complete control of vision, a complete control of tone. Just a really masterfully well done, well directed film. He is one of my nominees. So I had Patrice LeConte, I had Neil Jordan for End of the Affair, Mike Leigh for Topsy Turvy, Julie Taymor for Titus, and Tim Burton for Sleepy Hollow. We talked a little bit about this on the Sleepy Hollow episode, but it's worth just noting again, the how unbelievably well made that movie is. It is just a breathtaking production that really could only be made by Tim Burton. It is so just unquestionably him. And it is a bummer that I think that movie, it got a bunch of below the line nominations in its year, but and Rick Heinrichs won for production design, understandably. But I kind of wish that Tim Burton got a little bit more love from some of the guilds that year, but it is what it is. My winner, this was a little hard. This was a harder one to pick, but I went with Julie Taymor for Titus. She
runner up.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on the episode, but it's worth stating again how fucked up and shitty it is that Julie Taymor's career kind of went where it went because of her being labeled as difficult and blah 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 and all sorts of bullshit that would never be put on a man's career. no one else could have directed this film. Like, you watch like this, it is just so undeniably her, unabashedly her, and I fucking love it. And it's one of my favorites of '99. It's only grown in my esteem watching it again, and I just absolutely adored it. So, best supporting actress.
The best.
My nominees are Janine Garofalo for The Minus Man, Miranda Richardson for Sleepy Hollow, Nora Dunn for Three Kings.
I'm shocked how similar we are so far.
Sarah Paulson for Held Up, and Cate Blanchett for Pushing Tin.
That's fucking crazy.
Did we pick the same 5?
No, but we picked 3, and that's these crazy people. All right.
Yeah, I went with Nora Dunn for Three Kings.
I almost did too.
I think she's fucking great in that movie. I think that in a movie that is just a bunch of dudes, she fucking not just holds her own, but the way her presence, she's just fucking great. She's gruff, takes no bullshit. Her scenes with Jamie Kennedy are great. I think she's amazing. She's the standout for me.
Great choice. I went with Rebecca Johnson from Liberty Heights, Sarah Paulson from Held Up, Nora Dunn from Three Kings, Laura Fraser from Titus, and Miranda Richardson from Sleepy Hollow. And again, I think it's fucking nuts that we had 3 of the same people. And these aren't people who are nominated for Best Supporting Actress. These aren't people who really, like, I've never heard people laud these performances. These 3 that we had. And even the other ones that we had. Because this was an interesting category for me this year. I went with Laura Fraser in Titus.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. An amazing performance, an amazing, transferal from someone who can talk to someone who has her tongue out and her arms bitten off. And what she gives with her face and her expressions, she serves as the emotional center. And there is some damseling, but the way the way she presents makes you want to jump into that film and take down those motherfuckers. So I loved her in this. Laura Fraser, the winner.
She's great. Yep. Best supporting actor.
This is Tony Shalhoub, Galaxy Quest.
Sure.
Spike Jonze, Three Kings. Joe Mantegna, Liberty Heights. David Cronenberg, Last Night. And Ben Affleck for Dogma.
Oh, God.
And the winner is Spike Jonze for Three Kings. One of my favorite performances of the year. Love everything about it. Only Spike Jonze can do that. This is the movie. The movie is such a good hook, and it's so well shot, and the chemistry is amazing. This movie would have been good no matter what, but the added element of Spike Jonze as the fourth guy is such a bold, wild, unexpected move, and he's so fucking good. So it's interesting. I had 3 excellent directors in my nominees. 2 guys who were really known as directors. They just happen to, give great performances. And also Ben Affleck was in a movie, so I had to acknowledge that.
My nominees: Alan Rickman, Galaxy Quest; Alan Cumming, Titus; Harry Lennox, Titus; Spike Jonze, Three Kings; and Jeffrey Wright in Ride with the Devil. My winner is also Spike Jonze. It's nice. There is no question that everything you're saying is true. First of all, you got to remember Spike Jonze also made Being John Malkovich in 1999, right? Like, this is not a guy who's like got time off to fuck around in the desert and make and put in one of the funniest, heartfelt, just genuine human performances of 1999. I would argue he kind of steals the movie from underneath everyone he's in a scene with.
He does.
It's
not in a bad way.
In just a very, very just low key. This is my guy. I get this guy. I know what his deal is. It's really, really special.
Good call on Jeffrey Wright too. The only good part of
the only good part of that movie. Yeah.
All right.
Best actress.
Best actress. That's you. You first.
Yes. The nominees are Jessica Lange for Titus, Vanessa Paradis, Girl on the Bridge, Robin Wright, Message in a Bottle, Sandra Oh, Last Night, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio for Limbo. My winner's Jessica Lange for a fucking ferocious performance that just... I would say in a movie filled with great performances, that's the one that I can't fucking believe the Academy didn't nominate her for.
Totally agree with you.
When I look at those Best Actress nomination, which we've talked about on many occasions, is just basically weak sauce for, I would argue, like 3 of those nominations, at least 2 of them. And Jessica Lange is unfucking believable in this movie.
There you look.
So yeah,
Janet McTeer, who was nominated, didn't make our lists, and Julianne Moore, who was nominated in a movie we like, didn't make our lists.
I went with a little bit of a twist. I went with Robin Wright just because I think that Robin Wright, it's a forgettable movie. It's not a great movie. I just really loved what she was bringing to it, and I wish she did that more.
I too thought that there were 4 locks: Jessica Lange and Titus, Sandra Owen Last Night, Vanessa Paradis, Girl on the Bridge, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio in Limbo. My 5th was Sigourney Weaver in Galaxy Quest.
Very good call. Very
good. But I don't know. Maybe I would have gone with. Maybe I should have gone with Julianne Moore. It's tight,
she's so good in it. But
as weird and weak-ish as the supporting actress category was in our 52, the best actress category was quite strong in our 52.
Correct.
So I gave it to Sandra Oh. Could have given it any one of the 4 that we both had. I thought they all gave amazing performances. But yeah, that's the one that stuck with me.
It's a good call. She's great in it.
All right.
It's you, best actor.
All right, best actor. We're getting close, Phil.
I know.
Don McKellar in Last Night. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Daniel Atui, the guy from Girl on the Bridge, Daniel Atouye.
Yes, sure.
Sure. David Strathairn for Limbo, Anthony Hopkins for Titus, and the great Jamie Foxx for Held Up.
Who won?
I should have given Rosalind Sanchez a supporting actress nominee for her Hands Up into a Fighting Stance. The winner is David Strathairn for Limbo. The best performance, the best David Strathairn movie, the best use of this guy's many skills and charms. Mm-hmm. He is one of the only actors who can play high and low status at the same time in the same movie, who can play total fuck up and also someone you would trust to keep you alive in the woods in the same movie. He is an amazing actor and screen presence. And the more I watch him, I've seen him in so many movies, but the more I watch him, the more I like movies that are centered around his characters. To me, a wonderful supporting actor. He's played wonderful character roles, but him as a leading man is a guy that I can understand and get behind. And Limbo is, I think, his best leading man performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. I fucking love David Strathairn. I don't know that he's ever put in a bad performance. I say that genuinely. Whenever he fucking pops up. The other day, I was tweeting with, I think it was Emmy Potter, past and future guest, or maybe it was Carrie Corrigan, but Home for the Holidays, David Strathairn, one fucking scene, shows up and just crushes it, and then we never fucking see him again. He's great. My nominees: Anthony Hopkins for Titus, David Strathairn for Limbo, Jim Broadbent for Topsy Turvy, Harvey Keitel for Holy Smoke, and Lou Diamond Phillips for Bats.
Okay, Phil. Can you say those again, please?
Sure. Was I breaking up?
No. I my brain broke when you said LDP. So what were the 5 again? I'm not kidding.
Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins for Titus.
You erased my brain. All right, go ahead.
Anthony Hopkins, Titus. David Strathairn for Limbo.
Makes sense.
Jim Broadbent, Topsy Turvy.
Understood.
Harvey Keitel, Holy Smoke. Lou Diamond Phillips, Bats.
Hey, I picked Jamie Foxx and held up. We all got our kinks, right?
I mean, listen, it's a swing. I got to give a little bit of love to him.
That's awesome. Yes.
I also went with David Strathairn for Limbo. Everything you said, I second. I just don't think that the guy is capable of being bad. I think that he's so good in this movie. I mean, him and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio have sublime chemistry together.
Yeah,
what they go through over the course of the film is unbelievable. And it's like what you said about the high-low status thing. You know, I just saw him in Nightmare Alley, where he's got a relatively small role. He's probably got 3 or 4 scenes, but how he can play these sort of really sad, broken people that feel like they have just oceans of depth is just really something special.
His performance in Nomadland was weirdly ignored because
so good,
you know, just so good, and you believe it. He's such a good-looking guy, and you know he's who John Hamm wants to be post Mad Men.
That's interesting.
Or should be. Maybe that's not who he wants to be, but that's who he should be. And
I think John Hamm wants to be your boy Ben Affleck. That's who I think he wants to be.
Well, why wouldn't he? But all right, let's go to Best
Picture. Okay, my nominees: Galaxy Quest.
Before you say it,
yes.
How many do you think we matched on?
I think we matched on 3, maybe 4.
Okay, go ahead.
Galaxy Quest, Girl on the Bridge, 3 Kings, Topsy Turvy, Titus.
3.
My winner, Girl on the Bridge.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, I love all 5 of these movies. That should go without saying. And it was tough. Girl on the Bridge is, you know, I saw it back in 99. I really loved it. It was hard to find. We had David Ehrlich on for the episode. I really, really loved this film watching it again. It's just such a special movie that deserves people to seek it out. You know, rent it from the library, go buy a DVD off of eBay, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You know, you've obviously given it a few awards up until this point. I gave it the biggest one we could give at the end of it. I'd say the only one that gave it probably a real run for its money might have been Titus. Mm-hmm. That's my pick for Best Picture. What are yours?
My nominees were 3 Kings,
mm-hmm.
Girl on the Bridge,
mm-hmm.
Last Night, Limbo, and Titus. Titus. And I gave it to Last Night, obviously, because these are my awards, and it only matters what I want.
Yes.
Gave it a Last Night. What can I say about this film that hasn't been said by every film critic in the country? Let's see. Basically, best movie, only movie I've seen in the last maybe 10 years that like immediately shot up to like my personal top 20 that I hadn't seen before. Watched it. I watched it twice since I've seen it. It just taps into something that I feel like I experience and no one else does. And I feel a kinship with this movie. It does what movies are supposed to do. For me, it does what movies are supposed to do. And it transcends what I try to do with films, which is be super fucking objective about them when I talk about them. I can't be objective about this film because I saw so much of myself in my own experience and what Don McKellar's character goes through and the way he emotes and the way he explains and the way he's kind of preparing for the end of the world, which, you know, I'm not preparing for the end of the world, but like we kind of always are preparing for the end of the world in our own way. So it's an amazing film. Not what I would have expected. If you gave me 200 films at the beginning of the year, what would be, you know, one of my favorites, top 5? Never. 0%.
You don't think that it would have been a Canadian film shot on video in 3-4? That
would have been the 4-3. I love that about
4-3,
it. Yes,
yeah.
it's shot on video. I know it's hideous. It's so good.
I think that, I mean, listen, I love Last Night. It's absolutely going to end up, you know, when we do our favorite films of 99, we'll do our top 10s, but we should probably do our top 20, maybe even top 30, depending on how.
No doubt. I'll rank them all, Phil. But,
that's incredible.
I would literally rank them all and then just put them on the internet and just name our top 20, top 25. That
sounds fair.
We're going to have done like 2.
All right, it's going to be like
220.
Yeah, something like that. It's going to be a lot. So, yeah. But I just, for what it's worth too, I mean, I loved Last Night. I look forward to watching it again in the future. And everything you're saying is absolutely true. And I also just want to say, to go back to Girl on the Bridge for a quick second, that I do think that, you know, considering what we've lived through over the past 2 years, you know, Last Night obviously hits a lot of veins and a lot of nerves, obviously. Girl on the Bridge is the solve. It's the balm that I needed, which is a movie about love and fate and connection, and that there's someone there that's going to take your hand when you're standing on a bridge, you know, in the middle of the night.
Well, they're very similar films in that way.
They are. Actually.
They are. They're very similar films. They're about finding love in the you know places you won't look, the places the least expected. You get
totally. Do you want to do our top 10s now and how they've changed?
Top 10s.
Yeah.
So my top 10 last year were the current top 10: The Matrix, Audition, Election, The Insider, Eyes Wide Shut, Notting Hill, South Park, Office Space, Any Given Sunday, and Run Lola Run. And the ways in which it has changed are as follows. Actually, I'm just going to give you the 10. You can figure out how it's changed. From the bottom, Run Lola Run at 10. Any Given Sunday at 9. Office Space at 8. Notting Hill at 7. Eyes Wide Shut at 6. Girl on the Bridge at 5. Election at 4. Audition at 3, The Matrix at 2, and new number 1, Last Night.
That is incredible.
The new number 1 film of 1999.
That's incredible.
Displacing
I'm
The Matrix.
I am absolutely gobsmacked. That is incredible. I mean, listen, as I because I wish that I had a film this year that hit me as hard as Last Night hit you. I mean, truly, the only movie that was bumped off my list, bumped to 11 basically, is Boys Don't Cry, which was displaced by Girl on the Bridge. So Girl on the Bridge is at 10.
Oh wow.
The Insider's at 9. Notting Hill, Election, The Limey, Bringing Out the Dead, Talented Mr. Ripley, The Matrix, Toy Story 2, Eyes Wide Shut. That's where I'm at right now. Now, my assumption is that's going to get turned somewhat upside down by a bunch of the movies that we're covering this year.
Topsy-turvy.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, I didn't knock off my 9 and 10. I knocked off The Insider and South Park. Not sure why. It just there's something in particular about Any Given Sunday and Run Lola Run that I want represented, and I get that. Don't feel like South Park. I'm really close to, you know, that's probably 11. Insider's probably 12, but like, you know, we'll see how it goes. Who knows what the fuck's gonna happen?
And then, you know, to speak of the year previous, I mean, South Park, Run Lola Run, Virgin Suicides, those all got kind of displaced by the Limey election, The Insider. I know where you're coming from in terms of movies, but also types of movies that you want to see on this list. And that's why, Girl on the Bridge, I definitely want to see in I imagine will be in my top 10.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think that there's some that I look at now on this list and think like they're wobblier than others and will definitely probably not make it to the final 10. But I'm
definitely making a more personal list now.
Yes.
Like when I look at my 10 films, they all speak to me on a personal gut level, where The Insider does not and South Park does not. I am blown away by both of those movies. Technically, I am blown away by both of them in terms of their innovation, in terms of the way they tell their stories. But they just don't hit me on the same gut level as the other 10 I have there. Right.
I think that's the right way to think about it, because I think that when we sit down to do this at the end of next year, it's going to be more important to me that my voice and my heart is in this list than cinephiles looking at this list and feeling like, I checked a bunch of boxes. That's not as interesting to me. So, yeah. And
look, we'll put our, original list and our final list next to each other, and it'll be interesting to see what changed. But coming up, we still have films like Fight Club, being John Malkovich, Magnolia, Big Daddy, The Following, The Hurricane, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and many, many more. So, there are a lot of, and movies like Last Night and fucking Girl on the Bridge that I never seen and barely heard of. So, you never know. Like every year there is something, like if it's a Guinevere or if it's a Last Night or even an audition, something that I didn't necessarily know I would love so much. So we'll see what that movie is this year. Or Held Up, for instance.
There's certainly movies still on the list that I have not seen. And then I also feel like, when we are done this whole thing, I feel like we have to kind of we'll do all the movie stuff, but I also kind of want to get a little bit wider too and talk about some of, favorite episodes and what we liked about them and weirdo things that we did and all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like obviously we don't want to be too myopic when we're wrapping up the whole podcast, but I agree with you 100%, Kenny, that anything is possible. We have a lot of Ratcatchers next year, a movie that a lot of people love, which I've never seen.
Warzone.
We got Warzone.
Which
so there's definitely
top 10 that year, and
there's like movies there that I'm like, Ratcatcher in particular feels like, and even Felicia's Journey. Like there's
Journey, yes.
There's movies where like I'm excited I haven't seen, that I'm just like, this could shake things up.
American Movie, which
American Movie is a perfect
one.
example.
Exactly. I absolutely love that film. So you have Grey Owl with Pierce Brosnan, where he plays a Native American. I'm just joking.
You got Cookie's Fortune, some Robert Altman, which is, there's some stuff there that like, I think there could be there will be some surprises that I think I'm excited to talk about. So there you go.
All right, buddy.
Dude, next week we are talking about Annie. With Ashley Spencer. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch it. It's a Hard Knock Life. It's better than the Annie Live, which Melissa and I tried to watch about 20 minutes of and was unwatchable.
Really? Terrible. I'm sure it was awful.
It's a real harrowing journey into. But here's a question for you, Kenny. Have you watched any of those live musicals?
It's a good question.
So there was Grease, there was Peter Pan, Rocky Horror.
So I never watched one all the way through, and I tried several times.
Okay.
I watched part of Peter Pan, which was uncomfortable. I watched part of Grease, which was uncomfortable. I watched part of The Wiz, which I found uncomfortable.
Sure.
And I don't think there's been one that
Sound of Music.
I wanted to watch. I didn't watch any of the Sound of Music with Carrie Underwood.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch the Rent one, but I didn't. And these.
The only one I actually kind of liked was Grease, if I'm being completely frank, because I think that the energy of Grease is so kind of playful and kind of that you were able to kind of just lock into its vibe. It had an energy. This fucking Annie was just.
I really did not like Grease, but part of that is because I don't like Grease that much. I think the music's pretty good, but I think Grease is pretty fucking ridiculous. But they tried. They definitely they cast the right people in that one, and they shot it like they're they're filmmakers and not people shooting a fucking stage. And it was more of a spectacle in a good way. I don't know. Apparently, some of these are good. Apparently, Jesus Christ Superstar is all right. You know,
I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for us. But
I will say this, and I think you're similar to myself. Live stuff actually makes me quite anxious.
But that I love. To me, that's
I don't love that.
That's why I love pro wrestling.
Oh, right.
The live aspect of
a failure.
The potential, that whiff of death in the air. No, it's not that. It's you know what I really do love is I love improv comedy.
Right.
Deeply. And I laugh very hard at improv comedy. And it's specifically because of my anxiety as I'm watching it.
Sure.
And every time they stick a landing, every time they stick a joke, I'm tickled by what they're able to do. I'm tickled by what a good improv comic is able to do. So yeah, I like that.
I hear that, and when I agree with you that when it's great, there's an electricity to it, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
But like I tried to watch the live ABC thing that they did the other night, where they did Facts of Life and Different Strokes.
Yeah. Did they screw it up?
They didn't, and it was actually watching. It was actually a lot of fun. But anyway, next week, Annie with Ashley Spencer. Check it out.
99 podcast like it. You want a podcast like it? 1999.